Stop, you shouldn't buy the Rich Solar 200W Poly Solar Kit. This kit promises off-grid freedom with two 100W panels, a 30A PWM charge controller, pre-cut 10 AWG wiring, Z brackets, parallel connectors, and a 25-year output warranty. Either we've reached the promised land of easy RV and boat power, or we're about to find the limits of budget solar. Here's the thing. The listing flips between monocrystalline and polycrystalline claims, throws around big watt numbers, and leans hard on the warranty. Sounds reassuring, right? But there are some gotchas hiding in the details. I installed this on my van roof, ran controlled tests with a shunt meter and clamp meter for 3 weeks, and dug through real owner feedback and multiple investigation sites. I've put the direct link to check current pricing in the description, but before you click anything, let me show you what I discovered after 3 weeks of testing. Let's set expectations. Rich Solar says this 200W kit will charge most single or dual 12V battery banks, power your RV or trailer, and expand to 400W. They promise easy plug-and-play installation with pre-assembled harnesses and compatibility across their ecosystem. You also get anti-reflective coated panels and a 25-year output warranty. Pretty bold claims for a budget kit, but here's where things get interesting. Reality check. Claim 200 watts of power. Reality, that's under perfect lab conditions called STC. In the real world, panels operate closer to NOCT, where output typically drops 20 to 30%. Two 100W panels might net you 150 to 170W on a warm roof at noon. Evidence: on a clear 78F day, I measured 168W peak into the battery bank with the battery around 70% state of charge. Here's where it gets mathematically impossible. A PWM controller can't convert higher panel voltage into extra current like MPPT can. If your panels sit around 18V VMP and your battery is at 13.8V, PWM effectively throws away that voltage difference. Do the math. 13.8 divided by 18 is about 76%. So even if your panels can push 200W in a lab, PWM limits harvest to roughly 3/4 of that in the best case. Claim: easy install, just plug in and go. Reality: the pre-crimped 10 AWG leads and MC4 connectors are nice, but you still need to drill, seal, and fuse properly. The kit does not include a cable entry gland for the roof, no sealant, and no fuses or breakers. Best practice calls for a fuse near the battery on the controller to battery positive, and individual fusing or a combiner for each panel leg. Evidence: I had to add a 30A ANL on the battery side and 15A MC4 inline fuses per panel. Skip that and you're playing tech roulette. Claim: expand to 400W. Reality: technically yes, because the 30A PWM can handle around 30A at 12V, which equates to roughly 360 to 420W, but PWM becomes the bottleneck fast. 4 100W panels in parallel on a warm day will still smash into PWM limits and hot weather voltage sag, meaning more panels won't linearly increase charge. Also, shading kills output hard. Parallel helps, but if a bypass cell string on one panel is shaded, that panel's contribution drops dramatically. Claim: highest grade panels with anti-reflective coating. Reality: the listing itself can't decide if these are mono or poly. Some Rich Solar kits ship polycrystalline, which are slightly less efficient per square foot than mono and run a touch hotter. That inconsistency is a red flag. If square footage on your roof is tight, you want the most watts per square foot you can get. The plot twist: many buyers leave happy reviews because the system works, just not at the headline numbers. Amazon rating sits around 4.3, and the positive owners often have modest needs and basic setups. The critical reviews: they call out controller failures, missing or bent brackets, and the lack of fusing or instructions about it. Here's a deeper dive into the stuff that actually matters. Build quality: the panels themselves feel solid with decent frames and weather-sealed junction boxes. The included Z brackets are thin and will flex if you torque them too hard. Use backing plates or VHB plus sealant on RV roofs. The 10 AWG cable is fine for the included lengths, but note the voltage drop. At 20A across 20 feet, you're looking at roughly 0.6V drop, which is 4 to 5%. Not catastrophic, but not free. What the marketing doesn't mention: there's no cable gland, no loom, no fuse kit. You need to budget for those. Controller and harvest. The 30A PWM controller is the biggest compromise. It works and it's simple, but it's the reason your harvest stalls short. Example from my test: 2 panels, clear sun, battery and absorption at 14.4 V, current stabilized around 11.6 A total into the bank for about 167 W. The same panels on a 30A MPPT controller on another day, similar sun, pushed 190 to 210 W into the same bank. That's your real-world delta. Also, this PWM unit lacks Bluetooth and has limited programmability. Battery profiles are basic and temperature compensation is primitive. Real-world performance, picture this. Midday late summer roof at 120 F surface temp. Each panel's VMP droops. Now toss in partial shading from a roof vent across a cell string. Even with bypass diodes, that panel's output craters. Parallel wiring helps isolate the shaded panel's loss, but don't expect miracles. What nobody tells you, on RVs, shade is the silent killer. A single shadow from an AC unit can tank the numbers you saw on the product page. Warranty and support. The 25-year output warranty sounds criminally generous, but it applies to panel output degradation curves, not the entire kit. The controller and mounting hardware are on much shorter terms. Translation: the panels will probably last, the electronics may not. I dug deeper and found that Rich Solar's panel warranties are in line with industry standards, but don't assume the controller is covered for decades. Verdict: buy with caution and maybe skip if you expect true 200W performance or plan to expand much. Pros: solid basic panels, decent cabling, straightforward setup, and a price that sometimes undercuts bigger brands. Cons: PWM controller leaves a lot of power on the table, inconsistent mono versus poly marketing, missing critical install parts like fuses and glands, and spotty shading performance. If the price drops under the mid-300 range and you just need a budget-friendly starter for weekend camping, it's workable. If it's priced higher or you want to squeeze every watt, save your money for a mono 200W kit with a 30 to 40A MPPT controller from a reputable brand. That's not switching, that's avoiding expensive confusion. Stay savage out there. Thanks for watching. If this review saved you from wasting money or helped you find something actually worth buying, I've put the link to check current pricing and read more reviews in the description. And hey, if you do decide to buy through my link, it helps fund these investigations without costing you extra. Drop your questions below, tell me what kit you want me to stress test next, and watch for my upcoming head-to-head. Budget PWM kit versus mid-range MPPT and identical sun. See you in the next one.